Oh, 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 oh. We are live. We are live. Welcome, everybody. This is Project Nerd HQ, aka Mr. Hector Beauchamp. And we are live with Comrades Corner on a YouTube. I'm just gonna go check, how I normally do, check the stream on my end just to make sure everything is copacetic. Everything is copacetic. Yep. Everything is copacetic. Now, I'm just waiting for some people to join. I'm waiting for my guy Alex to be in the chat. Alex is gonna be in the chat today. He's not gonna like join in on the stream just because he has some school stuff to tend to. But whoever's out there in TV land, dog, if anybody would like to jump on, you're more than welcome to. I will put the link in the chat. I'm just waiting for my brother from down under, from across the pond, Nick, to join me. But while we wait for Nick to get here, I will, Oh, there he is.
Hey,
my man.
how are you?
I'm good. Hold on, my headphones. Forgot to plug my headphones in.
That's okay.
Man. What's up, brother?
It's been a very long weekend so far for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been interesting and good and sad and all of that. So, and it continues. We've got an engagement party today. So
Okay.
looking forward to that. And yeah, so that's why I'm a little bit short on time.
No problem. Listen, this is like all on me. Like I came home after I got the shot. I jumped on this Nick panel and then like I laid down and I put my alarm to go off at it and it just never went off. So it's on me. My apologize, Nicky boy.
That's okay. I'll tell you one thing though. It's very exciting news that you got the vaccine, and I'm very thrilled about that for you, but also for the fact that like New York was hit so hard, especially at the beginning, and when we think back to a year ago, all the uncertainty.
Yeah.
So it's good to kind of know that there's a pathway out, so to speak.
No, definitely. Like this past year, it's has been has had its ups and downs. It's been like a shock, seeing like how society and the world just like changed and everything is brand new, living in a post COVID world. But it was very easy. Like it was very easy to get. Like I had signed up for one vaccine site, but I couldn't get it because it was like Manhattan residents. But it was very simple and easy to get. And it was at Yankee Stadium too, so I was pretty excited.
any excuse to get you there, right?
Yeah, any excuse for me to be in Yankee Stadium, baby. That's all that matters. But it was very simple. 1, 2, 3. I got it. They had us go after we got the shot. We went around like I had a little courier area just to sit down, wait 30 minutes so they could monitor us before we dipped off and went home. I'm good. No X-Men powers yet, so I'm totally fine.
Yeah, and I mean, like the danger is that if we don't contain it in time, as we've seen with like the B1117 variant, the other variants, there's a vaccine-resistant New York variant that they've discovered now. I don't really like calling them by the name of the place, just because it kind of leads to a stigma that is unnecessary.
Of course.
But the popular media gives you these like the Russian variant, the South African variant, the UK variant, and now the New York variant, and it's like, okay, well, we can't all be scientists.
Definitely can't.
So we just have to go with the language we're given, I think.
But it's like you said, it's a breath of fresh air knowing that it's right around the corner. Just people just need to go on and do their thing. I was well, let's see, like people need to trust science, I should say, because I was on a Nick panel like a few nights ago, and one of the guys, love him to death. Shout out to G Money, but he went off about like don't take the vaccine, blah 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 blah, blah. And then like one of the people from the panel had to like come in who runs it and like listen, give a disclaimer, we are medical professionals, so don't take your medical advice from people on an online YouTube panel talking nicks. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, you've had your association with the medical profession throughout your career, so
Mhm.
it kind of, I'm sure you have a different understanding than that. I think a lot of people are nervous, perhaps because of the speed in which this vaccine has been developed, but it's also worth keeping in mind that the COVID family of viruses has been a bugbear for the health community for decades now. Like I
Mhm.
remember growing up and people saying, "Oh, we can put a man on the moon, but we don't have a cure for the common cold."
Yeah.
Um, so to sort of finally have something to kind of approach the corona family is good. And then the technology of the mRNA vaccine offers a lot of hope, um, in the sense that we could perhaps be moving in a new direction, a new paradigm of vaccines that will keep us safe from a whole suite of disease and illness that, you know, one of the four horsemen of the apocalypse is pestilence. So
Mhm.
pestilence and plague. So it's good to kind of have a breakthrough.
Yeah.
And the speed is staggering, but it just goes to show what a concentrated social effort led by the government can do. Um, and I think that the ability to produce something like this shows how important it is to
Mhm.
remember that we aren't just a collective of individuals making individual choices,
Mhm.
but that our choices have ramifications,
Yeah.
and we act as a community more than we act as individuals.
Yeah, like we live in a society that it's like we have to realize it's something like COVID. The decisions to handle it when it comes to like wearing a mask or wearing gloves, or like even getting the vaccines. It's not just for you. It's for me. But it's not. I should say it's not just for me. It's for you as well, Nick. You understand? Like I'm doing this not just to benefit me, but to benefit my neighbor, to benefit the people around me. Something that when people talk about, oh, look at the numbers of heart attacks, like people, you can't like give somebody, they can't catch a heart attack from like standing next to you. Like a heart attack is
Well,
not a flu you can hand over to
I
somebody by
mean,
sneezing.
it depends on like what you're doing when you're standing next to them, I guess. Like,
Of course, when
uh,
somebody like as macho as myself stands next to somebody, of course they may have a heart attack.
that's it. Well, I mean, look, it's one of those things you have to deal with. Occupational hazard, Hector.
Yeah, yeah, but man, besides that, bro, like how have you have been like with this past like March 4th happened. Um
Yeah, so I mean, it was March 5th here,
uh-huh.
and I was traveling because of a funeral, and so I wasn't really focused on U.S.
Mhm.
politics on the 5th at all. I caught a little bit of it. I think Matt Binder from Doomed did a good
Yeah.
job of kind of going deep into it, um, and discussing the kind of mutations of Q and the Q community, which, as someone who wrote a thesis, a master's thesis on conspiracy narratives, uh, definitely highlights how difficult it is to keep tabs on this movement and what's happening with this movement, because I did not anticipate Pizzagate when I submitted my
Oh,
thesis.
give me
Pizzagate was
one second. My fault, Nick. I have to add somebody. It's my boy Zach. How you doing, brother? How you doing? Welcome
Hi,
to
Zach.
Comrades Corner. Zach, this
Good,
is my
man.
boy Nick. This is my brother from Aussie, from the land down under.
What's up, Nick? How you feeling, bro?
I'm all right, Zach. How are you?
Oh, I'm good, man. I had to sneak away from the fiance because I've been on too many podcasts today. So Hector knows about it.
Yeah,
You're in
man.
the you're in the
Zach's doing his
basement.
Zach's doing his numbers. He got to just run off to the bathroom sometimes.
What'd you say, Nick?
I said you're podcasting from the basement.
No, in my garage. I had to sneak us out. No, she knows. She knows.
I don't know. Like as someone who's big into the theory of psychoanalysis, I think there's something to be said about this.
What, that I'm in my garage?
Yeah, Freud would have a field day, I think.
I mean, I am a car guy, so I do love being in the garage. there's your theory.
We lost your vision.
Yeah. When I smoke cigarettes, so I don't like to. Out of respect,
okay.
I don't like to.
No, I appreciate that.
I'm in the same boat. I get it. So what I was saying anyway, Hector, and Zach, was that I didn't anticipate Pizzagate at all. And I think the speed in which Pizzagate developed, like the conspiracy communities that I was kind of researching and embedding myself in and, participating in as a believer, I guess. When you look at something like the JFK phenomenon, it is pretty hard to reconcile the idea of a lone gunman being able to shoot the president. Like a lot of luck that if that is the case. And I think there's some fruitful avenues to questioning that narrative in terms of understanding power dynamics in our society. But it doesn't mean you can prove anything, and it doesn't mean that your alternative is any better than the official explanation. And that's the hard
It's
part
just like
about it.
it's just like when we was talking about how Marxists was talking about how religion is the opium for the masses. It's just like conspiracy theorists is, it's the validity behind it. It's the comfort of like wanting your beliefs to be true. You don't want to be considered like an outcast or a loner or somebody that's just weird. So people gravitate to conspiracy theories in order to like protect themselves from actually knowing something. It's just like the whole thing with COVID going on now. You got people that deny what's going on when you have over 500,000 people dead. It's like people deny the legitimacy of wearing a mask. It's like you tell somebody, oh, all right, so let me flip it on you. You talk about not wearing a mask. So it's like, why do you wear a coat in the wintertime? You wear a coat in the wintertime to protect from hypothermia. But I could hit you with like, oh, but only 0.7% of people died in America from hypothermia. And of those 0.7 people, 98% of people was wearing a coat. So that goes to show you that wearing a coat doesn't work. You see how crazy, you see how lunacy I sound?
And to add on just what you said, Hector, like me, I'm in South Central Pennsylvania, so it's straight up like Trump country when it comes to the masks and all that. And people will say, that the mask doesn't always help, but at the same time, your correlation to the jacket's perfect. Like you can wear a jacket, still be cold, but it helps you. It helps you, and anything that helps you, you need to use.
Exactly. It's just like, you're into cars. It's just like wearing a seatbelt. It's not going to stop like any type of like major death or stuff, but it protects you. It's 98% better if you're wearing a seatbelt.
It's a precaution.
There you go. It's a precaution like wearing a helmet.
You're a lot less likely to go through the windshield if you're wearing a seatbelt than otherwise, right? So,
but Zach, to your point, like it's like where you grow up too, and I commend you. From these panels that I've known Zach, I've always tried to fill Zach out to see like where does he align politically and stuff like that. But then it's like
Nowhere.
the last
Nowhere.
no, but the last time I was on a panel with you and we had like a discussion came up briefly, you automatically interjected. It was like, no, you can't say that when I witnessed it firsthand. So that right there gave me like, all right, cool, Zach understands like what I'm talking about, like where people are coming from. Because what racism is, it's not just going around on Xbox Live and like saying the N-word. It's like structures and systems that are in place as well.
Well, like coming from let's say, well, I'm engaged now, but I'm a single father because the mother's not in his life. But from a dad, I can take my son's African American. His mother is African American, and I'm white. But it's amazing, just like the stupidity, like I ignorance. Like I take my son to a grocery store, and an old lady comes up to me and says, "I just want to commend you for adopting that boy." I'm like, "All right, what?" I about caught a domestic violence charge. I'm like, "Excuse me? Like, what part of that makes you think he's not my real son?" Like, because he is. Like, just people are so ignorant, and they just. But that stuff like racism is taught. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not bred. It's parents and it's older generations that are putting it on the newer generation. It's not going to stop until people stop teaching their kids to hate for the color of the skin.
That's
Like it'll always be in this world until people stop teaching it. In my opinion.
That's a fact. And like even that lady, even though that was like a tiny microaggression, she probably wouldn't think that what she was doing was a microaggression. You understand?
Well, she probably thought she was saying something like compliment. Even.
Exactly. Without knowing it's a microaggression. It's just like seeing, like, if you have a new kid in class or a new kid in a suburban school, but his hair is an afro, and people come up to him like, "Oh, I like the texture of your hair." That's a microaggression. That's like Zach. If you was to move to the hood, and I'm like, "Look at that silky fucking top you got on your head, bro. Let me touch that shit."
No, yeah. I mean, it goes both. Racism does go both ways, though. Like with the one thing I have a problem with is, as a white man, I can't walk. I can't, like. It's not that I can't, but like certain, like when I jump on a basketball court, because I know Hector through basketball. So like I'll go to a pickup game and people are like, "What's this bitch ass white boy doing here?" You know, like, okay, so white people can't play basketball too. You know what I mean? Like, just things like, or like I'm automatically labeled a racist if I disagree with someone of a different creed or different color, just because like my ancestors were pieces of shit. Like that doesn't mean I am.
Sometimes it's
but it does mean we have a responsibility to be more active in seeking change.
And I like to think I do that.
Yeah.
Well, people don't know that when they strangers just meet me. They don't know that about me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
No, absolutely. It's so, like you said, it's all about programming. It's just like you seen that movie Jackie Robinson with the man who passed away who played Chitala, Chadwick Boseman. That one scene is perfect when the father and son are watching the game, and then the son starts saying the father saying the N-word and gets scared, and the son starts repeating it because it's something that you see. It's around you, it's normalized around you. Even as a child, like, you see the fear and the change. Like, that cinematic, like, that part of the movie was brilliant. The way it just showed like the shift in dynamics. That stuff is taught, man.
And Friday, the one movie with Denzel Washington, the football movie. I forget the name.
Oh, Friday Night
Lights. Yes.
Yeah.
When the white guy, the black guy, he was like, can't you see the resemblance? That's my brother. Stuff like that. That goes a long way.
That's why, like, I'm a big proponent and big, like, Fred Hampton and the movement that he was trying to create with the Rainbow Coalition and showing people that, we're both poor. Yeah, you may be white, I may be black, but the system at play has separated us. The cancer that the structure of the system is making it to think that poor white people, the only reason that you're poor is because of other minority groups. That's how rich white people control poor white people.
Yeah. I mean, that's been a consistent narrative before the founding of America, before the colonization of Australia. I mean, this has deep roots back into, you can even trace it, I guess, as far back as Athenian times and the Hellenistic culture of ancient Greece.
You just love dropping big words.
What I drop?
No, I just said you just love dropping the big smart words.
All right. I mean, I can't help my vocab. I'll
Love
try
him.
and keep it simple. But
he can't help he's smarter than you.
I know.
Hey. I guess, like, that we have to kind of think about is, especially with a virus, like coronavirus is very clarifying politically, right? Because it asks us a simple question. Do you want to be in a society, or do you want to pursue individual self-interest? And if you choose the latter, then you for how your actions may have unintended consequences. Choosing to wear a mask in a time of a pandemic should be a very simple precaution, like wearing a seatbelt. or any other examples of community safety. And what I find really interesting is that you guys are huge basketball fans and sports fans, as am I. It is a big part of our culture, sport. And, you know, politically, sport intersects with, you know, the issues of the day, whether we want it to or not, because it is a subset of a broader, you know, system of social engagement. And so, of course, you're going to have politics in sports. You can't eliminate that. But what I find
It'd be
really
nice
interesting,
too, though.
well, I mean, it can and it can't. Like, I see it differently because the AFL, you know, I come from Victoria in Australia, which is a southern state. And AFL, Australian rules football, is our big cultural touchstone. And I was talking about this last week, but I don't know if I was talking about with you, Hector, or if everything blurs together from last week. So I'm sorry. Forgive me if I'm repeating myself. But the broader point was that, you know, slow political baseline cultural movements can be advanced through sport in the sense of promoting the values of different groups. And in Australia, we have like Dreamtime at the G, we have Fight MMD in the winter. And so we can leverage sport in a way that furthers social solidarity rather than divide us. And of course it does, because these sports are team sports. And so there's this kind of Daniel Bell thesis of the cultural contradictions of capitalism. But on this case, it's like the cultural contradictions of libertarianism. People want to be like individualistic about it, but in a team sport, you have to sacrifice your individual value for the value of the team. You have to play a role, right? Like if you're center or if you're point guard, you need to be, you know, zoning correctly, running the right patterns, passing at the right time to facilitate the team, right? You know, the ball can move from the back end to the front end of the court through 2-3 passes much faster than any individual can run from the baseline to the baseline.
But it's like I get exactly what you're saying, and it's like hard sometimes because my apologies. When people talk about keeping politics out of sports, 98% of them aren't coming from the lens of like, say, like Zach or the average sports fan, right? It's coming out of the lens of a reactionary, somebody who's just a reactionary and just loves reactionary politics.
Yeah.
Right.
Exactly. You have all these guys talking about, oh, I'm never going to watch the NBA again, but they'll keep mentioning it and talking about it. You know, we've spoke about my issues with like NBA owners and like the whole thing is because they're not doing it to change or solve anything. They're doing it for money. They're doing it for the dollar at the end of the day. Yeah, just like you don't want to change them. Like it's hard because it's like LeBron James, he does what he has. He does everything he does. And then people say for him to shut up and dribble and stop worrying about politics. It's hard to tell LeBron James that when you have the owner of the Houston Rockets going on Fox Business yesterday saying that people shouldn't get stimulus checks. People are lazy. People should go back to work when we're in the time of a pandemic. So it's on the one hand, you know, you want to shun LeBron James for his activism work and the stuff he does, but no one's mentions the owners of these teams that they go on TV and they spread this propaganda.
At the same time, though, no one mentions when LeBron James like went away from speaking about the injustices and things in China because that's about his money. You're taking money out of his pocket then.
But you see what I'm saying? It's a reactionary because you are speaking from a legit point of view. I have the same critiques like when it comes to China and stuff like that. But people on the reactionary point won't have the same critiques when their stocks are like directly tied to China. You know, like all these Fox News people, they have business interests that are in China that uses China's slave labor. So if you're going to have that same energy for LeBron, let's speak about your stock interests.
Right. No, I'm not saying I'm one side or the other.
Oh, no, definitely.
Things like that. I think if you're speaking about like the education camps in the Uyghur population, then certainly that is a major problem.
Oh, definitely.
But we have to be sensitive to the ways in which this is not a China problem. This is a global problem. And this began with Japan in the post-World War II era and the MIDI Japanese miracle, which was really just the US imperialists repurposing the Japanese factories to supply munitions for the Korean War. So I refuse to call it a miracle when, how many countless people died for no reason in the Korean War, right? The Korean War hasn't even ended. It's on a armistice or whatever, and you've got the demilitarized zone. So it's like all of this combines together into a race to the bottom. And when you see the power dynamics at play there, it becomes clarifying. And as much as anything else, the coronavirus has highlighted where our social structures have let us down more so than where individual actions have let us down. And it's easy to point to, we had this lady when we were in extreme lockdown who said, I've walked every street in my suburb and I want to be able to go to other suburbs. And it's like, okay, but you can't, right? We have a 5-kilometer, which would be like a 2.3 mile radius. You can't go beyond that because we need to protect each other. And so, there was a theorist that I really like, who's a French philosopher, for want of a better term, Michel Foucault. And he kind of charted different forms of power dynamics in society, and he landed on something called biopower, which an Italian philosopher named Roberto Esposito picked up on. I apologize, my partner's getting ready, and she's got the hair dryer going. So
no problem, no problem.
But
happy boss, happy life. So you let her rock.
Happy wife, happy life. Yeah,
that's right.
But the Roberto Esposito put out 2 books, Communitas and Immunitas. It's where do we have to kind of push back against the idea that we're all one and we're all in this together? And that's when it's exploitative. That's when you have, the owner of the Houston Rockets coming out and telling his team, we're all in this together. Every single person from the CEO to the janitor has, I'm not saying, I don't know when the Houston Rockets last won a championship, but hypothetically, right? He's going to stand there and say, from the top to the bottom, every member of this team, whether they were changing shoes or slamming dunks,
they all participated and contributed.
Yeah, to this. And then he'll turn around and say, get back to work, you're lazy. We can't have unemployment higher than the minimum wage, which just highlights why we need to raise the minimum wage. But that's a different argument. So there's this idea that you cannot act alone. You need to be able to act in a collective manner. And we do it every day, right? When you go to a grocery store, you're participating in a collective activity because you didn't, as Obama famously said, you didn't build it. The roads, the electricity, the water, all of that stuff that contributes to the ability to have a supermarket in your suburb. The logistics, the licensing for the truck drivers, the shipping yards that bring the product in from overseas, all of that contributes to that supermarket. So even just the seemingly very individualistic act of, buying your favorite snack before sitting down to watch the Knicks win is in itself a social act. And it's a part of a broader social movement.
It's I get tossed, and because like you said, the criticisms of the education camps is something that should be put on full display, that should be talked about, but it's I look at it as a parallel, like, because when Zach was talking about LeBron James and people criticize LeBron James, which is fact, like that needs to be something talked about, but criticizing LeBron James for the NBA's business in China is, to me, on par with criticizing, me, you, and Zach with, oh, you guys care about climate change, but you guys aren't riding bikes everywhere. Like if you care about the climate, like, you guys will make your own electric cars, but it's without recognizing that the systems in place make it hard for us to make those changes that we need to do.
Well,
All I
Hector,
meant
I
was
don't know
this,
if you know this, but
No, I know what you meant. I know.
Ford over here building an electric car in my garage, so that's why I can't podcast from the garage because the electric parts are. No, it's exactly right. You know, like, we can't all build our own electric car, and how that would be. You know, it's ridiculous. So.
And a lot, if you look into it, though, if you look in like a lot of the ways making batteries for hybrids or electric cars is just as bad for the environment. Like what happens when a battery, the battery powered stuff can still be just as bad.
Well, that's when absolutely 100%. But then that's when you're sourcing minerals when you have it, like when you have, like, say, like your cell phone, for instance, right? Like the iPhone or whatever. The iPhone is made to only hold 1,200 charges. If you charge it 1,200 times, if you charge it that one time over, the battery is dead. So it's like we could build the battery to last longer. It's just we choose not to. Capitalism.
Obsolescence. I mean, that started with the light bulb, right? There's that famous fire station in the East Coast that the light bulb is still going, the filament's still going after 110 years, or probably longer now.
Yeah.
So that element of planned obsolescence to keep the cycle repeating itself just builds landfill.
Because what I try to do when I talk to like sports bros and stuff, and I'm glad, Zach, that you came in for this conversation.
Bro. You supported my channel earlier. I got to support yours, big bro.
Love you, my guy. And it's like how I try to get people to grasp the concept of what I want to bring to the table in forms of a conversation is understanding capitalism and understanding the driving goal of capitalism, and get people to understand like the concept of what $1 billion actually is. So it's like I use sports as a perfect reference, right? Zach, NBA salaries, you know all that. So just put in this in this theory or whatever, or this scenario that like Nick, right? He's the owner of the Knicks, right? The Knicks made $1.8 billion in profits.
Hey, Hector, come on. We spoke about this. Now, it's not good for my brand or for the marketing to leak that I've bought the Knicks.
Hey.
Yeah, it is.
We gotta
see they're on the up and coming, man.
We gotta,
sure.
You gotta drop the news on Comrades Corner and Zach and Spree and Zach, bro.
Man.
What are you doing?
This is gonna ruin my socialist credit, right? This is gonna ruin my reputation.
All right, listen, you commie. I'm trying to get back to this theory, right?
That I bought the Knicks.
Right. So in the scenario, like I'm saying, so Nick is the owner of the Knicks. He made $1.8 billion in profit. We're gonna take that $1.8 billion and we're gonna represent that as $1,800, right? Because the three of us know what $1,800 actually look like.
Writing a check, I need to drop a couple of zeros to be able to make
exactly. Exactly. And in order for us poor people to understand what $1 billion is, I like to represent it as 1,800 because that's something that we could grasp and know how to spend it. So Nick made $1,800 in profit. He pays Z and he pays me $20 for the season, $18 for the season. Now in that scenario, with the profit that
he'll get $20 when he makes a few more field goals. I mean,
you're making this hard, Nick. No, but like I'm saying, in that scenario, the profit margin is $1,800 to the players, $20 for the season. Now, people may be like that may be just all right, or that may be fair, whatever. Then you use that same scenario and that same logic and look at somebody that owns Amazon, like Jeff Bezos. Jeff Bezos, in the same scenario, his $138 billion is represented as $138,000, while he's paying his players 0.0007 cents an hour. Now, the work that someone at Amazon is doing per hour, how much money is that bringing in to Amazon? It's just like, for instance, like Zach, you told me that you build tanks and stuff like that. We really don't have to get where you work at and stuff like that. But
it's confidential. I can't.
No. I know. But you know how much a tank costs when they sell it, right? So put into the math of how many tanks you make a year, and then take that number and compare it to what you make a year. Now, with that, you could see if your labor is actually being robbed from you.
It's not even just I mean, okay, I get what you're saying, but at the same time, you got to pay for every nut and bolt. You got to pay their businessmen. You got to
right, but the capitalist in that scenario is a company that is taking taxpayers' money for a military contract. So in that scenario, they're not bringing anything to the table. It'd be different if, like, all right, I want to make a chair and sell the chair. So it costs $100 to make the chair, right? And then I sell the chair for $200. I make $100 the cost of material. That's totally good. But what I'm talking about is that next $100. I'm only giving you $15 and I'm keeping $85. That's not a proper compensation for your labor.
Yeah,
I made the $100 back already off of materials. Now in that scenario, the person you're working for, they're not paying for materials because this is taxpayers' money.
It depends though, because like it depends on the business owner too. Like in a capitalist environment, like is the business owner gonna be greedy, or is he gonna take care of his workers?
Well,
I'm well taken care of, and people with college degrees are more taken care of than others. In just in my or like the business I work for, like we get paid. Like you'd be shocked how much like the union, bottom of the totem pole janitor makes.
A union.
That's right? A good
Going back to the Amazon example where it's like 0.037 cents or whatever you said, Hector. Yep. But then, it's $38 a day in that, when we're changing the numbers here, $38 a day to have consultants and explain to the workers why they shouldn't have a union. Right, that's a ridiculous $3,800 a day for someone as a consultant to go and explain, oh, you shouldn't unionize. You're going to pay dues. It's going to be in a right to work state where they can't charge you dues. It's all voluntary. So this is a dynamic. And if you start to think of it as a dynamic rather than an individual relationship between you and your boss, then we can see obviously the government has to meet certain thresholds when it's employing people because there's just too much heat on the government. It can't really hide versus Microsoft or Intel, whoever, right? And so when you start even like the bodega owner, right? No one's really digging into the bodega owner's books other than maybe the tax time, but beyond that, they could get away with charging or paying less than the minimum wage to undocumented immigrants because what are they going to do? And then that puts downward pressure on the wages, which then has a ripple effect, like a stone being thrown into the water. Yes, it's not you directly being underpaid, but each of those ripples is affecting you, and eventually you're going to be drawn closer to that center point where you are being underpaid. And with any complex system, and global capitalism is a very complex system that has a lot of moving parts. It's very difficult to isolate the key dynamics that need to be addressed. So when Kristen Sinema gets up there and does her little no vote John McCain impersonation, it's disappointing. Because one of the key levers we can use to make society a little to erode a little bit of the wealth inequality that's been growing ever since, definitely since 2008, but arguably much longer than that. When we're not lifting the floor and constantly looking to raise the ceiling through different mechanisms, and then saying, well, anybody in our society can become a billionaire. And we start to measure the success of an economy by how many billionaires it produces, then what we're not seeing is for every billionaire, there's probably 1 million people who have been pushed beneath the poverty line. And so, if you have 100 billionaires, you have 100 million people who are now suffering in a way that perhaps they shouldn't be.
Right, but let me ask you this. You got like, what do you say to raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour and the inflation that comes from that? What do you and you don't think there's no inflation that comes from that?
There's no inflation that comes from that because in the sense of how that money is distributed anyway, right?
The more money people make, the more small businesses will be affected, the more
but they won't be.
Price will cause how
they
not?
Won't be. And we've seen this in countless examples. Like, Florida raised the minimum wage and they haven't seen any real inflation.
What'd they raise it to?
Above
it's going to be 15 by 2025.
But what'd they raise it to right now?
Well, it was at $7 on par with the federal, so they raised it up to $11 an hour, and then every year is going to go up an extra $1. But it's. I understand what you're saying, Zach.
I understand cost of living raises and raising the minimum wage eventually. I'm talking like going straight from 7 to 15, like
but
overnight.
It's never going to go. It's never going to happen. You're never
like
going to have
it's
that.
never going to do it like dramatically
no
overnight.
Right. That's all I
make it
like.
overnight.
I just
I
want
see
the
what you're
basis for some people that like
certainly.
that see it and they just want to double my rate and just help me out. You know what I'm saying?
Mhm.
Like there's consequences to that.
Sure, but then what would happen if a business decided to double everyone's hours? Right, it wouldn't immediately cause inflation. And what we have to think about is the velocity of money, right? So Zach, you have $1, you give it to me, I give that dollar
Say
to
hi,
Hector.
buddy.
Hector gives
Sorry,
that
my
dollar to
apologies.
you,
Nah,
to
it's
your
cool.
son. Your son uses that dollar to buy a Mattel car. And then the Mattel car, the salesman who sold him the Mattel car uses that money to buy fuel. The gas station owner uses that money to pay rent. The landlord then uses that money to buy, stock. Money
It's
in
it's a it's a it's a circle.
Cayman Island account, and so when you raise the velocity of money, you can actually change the limits of inflation, because yes, there's more money for the small business technically going out in overhead of labor, which is a major cost for a small business, but there's more money coming in because the customers who frequent that business are people in the same boat as their employees. So there's more money being distributed among the lower rungs of society by raising the minimum wage, rather than just this straight vacuum cleaner of money going from the poor to the rich through tax cuts or tax rebate credits or whatever mechanism they're using. And so that's how we can kind of control inflation. And inflation was really to get out of control, you can raise interest rates, right? But they're never going to raise interest rates because properties then have to pay more. And they don't want to pay more.
The reason I ask
is and stuff.
Sorry, I hate to cut. Sorry, but the reason I asked is just to add some basis around what you're saying, so that viewers that might not be agreeing with you can understand, other than just the broad statement of, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, I totally get what you want to say, because like I said, I tried to connect like the sports bros with the politic heads. So it's like trying to make it like a baseline so people will understand. So it's Henry Ford is one of the most like reviled people in history. If you actually look into him, he's not that great of a person, actually. Nope. But Henry Ford was one thing that he had, what was a good idea, what it benefited him at the end of the day. But it's like, how can I have my workers produce stuff and make stuff for me, but they don't get paid enough to buy my product? So Henry Ford made the assumption of like, all right, cool, I'm gonna raise my workers' wages so they could buy my cars. And that's why the Ford car was like a staple of like American culture at the time. And if you look at it, like our market, just our economy, 8% of it is small mom and pops. Like small mom and pop, small restaurants. 92% of it is big time private business. So if you look at the number one hire for like minimum wage workers in America, it's Walmart, it's Burger King, it's McDonald's, it's Home Depot. And these same companies operate like in Sweden or Denmark and countries where the minimum wage is $18. Oh, Nick, you left, is $18 or $19 an hour. So it's like, how can you say that it can't happen here in America while those same countries are operating in other places that they have higher labor standards and the workers get paid more?
I'm not saying it can't happen.
No, not you. I'm not saying
just,
you.
No, but it's like, and to play devil's advocate for you, there's it kind of play devil's advocate, kind of not to. From what you hear, like from the other side, I'll say, is like, okay, well, you look at a minimum wage job, and that's not supposed to be your career. Like that's supposed to be, a lot of high school. You know what I'm saying? Like people say, it's supposed to be like a high school job. You learn how to be a worker, be professional, and then you make something of yourself. Use the avenues that you can, college, whatever the case may be, and just continue climbing up. That's the capitalist way.
Yeah, but that's
thinking.
Yeah, but it's a way of like, how many people that work like a minimum wage job, that work 5 to 6 days a week? How many of them have the opportunity to take a day off to like go and look for another job? How many of them have the opportunity of bettering themselves? Or like, I use my example. Like I couldn't afford to like go to college and like not worried about working because I had to help my mom and her bills in our house. So I made that sacrifice and studied and went strictly in for schooling I mean, strictly into work while my brothers went to school. I made that sacrifice. It wasn't until I was 30 years old that I went back to school after my brothers graduated college. You know, so everyone has to make that sacrifice, which is not fair. You know, everyone, and my idea, like when people hear that word socialism, like socialism, communism, they don't know what that shit means in all reality. They don't know what it means. If you ask the average American what socialism means, they would tell you that socialism is the government doing stuff for you and no iPhones, which is basically not true. All socialism is just a form of economy where the workers owns the means of production. You see, the cops get paid through taxes. That's society owning the means of productions for our police force. Imagine if we had a private company charging us monthly for our police force to protect us and to be security and stuff. Like, imagine how that's stupid. We used to do that with the I'm about to cut off in a little bit because niggas have a problem. We used to do that with the fire department. Like the fire department, we used to have fire insurance. If you didn't have fire insurance, your house is going to burn down. But as a society, we come together. It's like it's not a benefit if my house burns down and then Zach's house burns down and then your house burns down and then your neighbor's house burns down. So we came to the realization that we need to come up with a system to solve that. They started implementing taxation for the fire department. It's the same. It's the same thing. Imagine if we had that same thing for like transportation or our electric company. Imagine our electric company was state owned. You could get a job and it's state owned. The profit from it goes to fixing it, goes to upgrading it. It's not going to some rich old motherfucker who's sitting in the hills pocketing his bank account. Look what happened in Texas. That right there is because nobody was investing into the infrastructure, making things better. You know, but
I mean, and also if you want to look at it like from my example, like building stuff for the military, obviously there's a lot of right people there, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, well, they can sometimes think of they can sometimes have socialistic opinions and not even realize it. For example, they come to we start a job, like the job for the union employees, which I am a union employee. I'm a blue collar,
respect all unions.
No problem. I work my ass off for what I got and to help make good combat vehicles for the soldiers. But we all do. But at the same time, like we think about it, like since it's union, since it's a good government job, it's like $10-11 more an hour than you can find any other manufacturing job around. And they'll sit there and they'll be like, well, if you want good workers, why can't you just raise the wage? Like I left my other job and I love my job, but they wouldn't pay me enough. So I went somewhere where they pay me. And I'm like, you do realize like what you're saying. Like, you understand?
Yeah. Yeah.
But okay, well, what that's not capitalism is paying your the bottom of the totem pole more money. That's not a capitalistic view.
No, not at all. The whole profit margin of capitalism is to make as much money as you can with paying your workers as less as you can. I look at us like me and you. We want to get a job to be able to make as much as we can while doing the least work that we can. And for the people who hire us, it's the opposite. They want to get as much produced out of us without paying us as much. You know, so if you look at studies, there's so many studies that done like if minimum wage was on par with productivity in the United States since like the 70s or 80s, minimum wage would be $24 an hour. Like the United States worker is the most overworked worker in the world. You know, we produce more than anyone else. We work more than anyone else bi-weekly. Like in Europe, a weekly work week is 28 to 32 hours. And that's full time.
In Spain, you get siestas. You get like hour plus naps during the day. Like you get breaks. Like what?
I worked with somebody and he was like, "Oh, we don't have holiday pay over." I was like, "What do you mean, like Christmas pay?" He was like, "No, like you guys don't have holiday like vacation and stuff like that." Hold on. There you go, Nicky boy.
There he's back.
All right, Nicky boy. I'll let you lead us off since you got to go to your.
Sorry. I'm just having trouble hearing.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, you're loud and clear, bro. Nick, you there?
You good, baby? All right, so I'm gonna just let Nick just do that. Yeah, so yeah, Zach, I appreciate you coming on. You know, sometimes I know politics sometimes or just talking about things make people uncomfortable, but I totally appreciate you coming on, brother. You know, I'm always open to open dialogue, and that's what me and Nick and another friend of mine, that's why we started this thing, because we wanted to have open dialogue and have open conversations with people, you know. So I appreciate you coming on, brother. Anytime you want to come on.
I can play devil's advocate to certain views. I can I'm not just I'm not exactly someone who studies politics all the time. You know what I'm saying? I'm not like
yeah.
like that, but I can have a conversation about what makes this world better, man. I'm all for it, no matter what it is.
And that's what we tend to do here. Like, it's something that's called the international left. Like, there was a guy named Michael Brooks, and that's how me and Nick kind of got connected. He was a big time leftist speaker. He passed this past summer from like a blood clot or something. But if man, Zach, if you're taking a shit ever and you want like 10 minutes just to pass, look up Michael Brooks on YouTube. I guarantee you it will not be you won't regret. It will be the best 10 minutes ever while you're taking a shit.
Hey, Nick, if you try connect, he said he can't hear us. If you disconnect your headphones, plug them back in. That helps a lot on StreamYard sometimes. Oh,
no, I got him. Yeah, Nick,
now?
Unplug your headphones and plug it back in. You good? I think you got to unmute yourself. Hit the mic button because I muted you. You got to hit the mic button on your end.
Unmute him. You can do that.
I'm trying to. I'm just learning this like you, baby.
No, I'm saying you can do that. I was trying to help.
He said that he muted himself, so you got to unmute yourself, buddy.
Oh.
Anywho's, but yeah, bro. Like, his book is right back here. Michael Brooks. He's from a New Yorker. He was young when he passed away, but he's a great listen to when it comes to like understanding politics or trying to figure out like where do you sit in the political realm.
I don't sit anywhere because a lot of it, like either side you want to go. The two main sides are money driven.
No, but that's the thing. So, like Michael Brooks would point out to you is like I'm not a Democrat. Like I don't support Democrats at all. Like I'm a progressive. There's a big difference between like a progressive and a liberal. The difference between like a progressive and a liberal is basically a conservative Republican, but who just likes to virtue signal. They will highlight social issues, but would not do anything to like change the social issues. You know, like you can have all these Black Lives Matter flags and everything like that, but if you're not trying to actually change the material difference or trying to actually put policies that are actually going to help, you're no better.
Like Joe Biden, when he used Black Lives Matter to get elected and then never talked to him again, and was actually the last senator for segregation. Like if you look it up, he was definitely like he played that Trump was the biggest racist known to man. But look at the skeletons in his closet too, you know.
Oh no, definitely. But it's like that could be used as cannon fire to like deflect from like the shit that Trump has done. Like both of them.
No, I'm not saying.
No, not you. I don't believe me. I don't think you at all. But it's like both of them are piece of shit. I will break down every reason why I think both of them are pieces of shit. But when we're talking about the difference between somebody who believes in science and would tell people to like wear a mask and like we got our ass kicked by the flu, bro, like by the sniffles. This is a country that spends $900 billion a year on military, and the sniffles fucked us up, bro.
Yeah.
You know, if you look at like our spending, like the CDC is only funded $11 to $12 billion a year. Then you got Lockheed Martin, then you got Raytheon that are getting minimum $50 billion on their military contracts. Like,
the thing is, though, if you bump those military contracts down, I'm out of a job. So you're not going to get a disagreement from me.
No, not even. I get what you're saying, and it's like not
the
even.
Minute, like people will talk about like raise the minimum, like a lot of Democrats you'll hear like raise the minimum wage, do this, do that, you know, all about jobs and helping people out. But then the first thing they do when they get in office is cut the military so bad and cut other trade positions so bad that we're all out of work.
Like I get that, but like the past 10 years, the military budget has gone up every year.
Right. I'm saying traditionally. I'm not saying now.
Okay.
Like, traditionally, it's like so that's where traditionally all these like blue collar people are like hesitant on, you know, the other side. It's like, well, how many times have I taken my job? You know what I'm saying?
No,
if
but
they
that's
don't look
the thing.
at it with a broad scope. They just say, okay, I lost my job.
They would cut, like you said, they'll cut military spending and take jobs away, but they won't add to it. Because there's a difference of, say, like cutting the military spending and like using that money to focus on green energy, but not
getting us jobs again.
And not exactly and getting you a job in that field. Like one of the reasons why I went to school to become an electrician is because once we switch and go solar, electricians, my teacher was like, they're gonna become like the new nurses and doctors. They're gonna be the ones that'll be out there on the field that are going to be working to get those new positions. So it's one thing of like you say, cutting jobs, but not having anything to supplement it. Look what happened in Michigan, in Detroit, when the auto industry left and went overseas. They did nothing for the people. They did no job programs. Like if you wanted to put job programs, look how shitty the highways are. Look how shitty public transportation is. Look how shit you could have add jobs
Pennsylvania's
to have
got some of the worst roads in America. So I know what you're saying,
bro. Like how many movies have you seen? And like the joke in the movie is the person with their finger on the road waiting for a public bus to come for 2 hours. Like that's like one of the like cartoonist jokes growing up as a child. Our public transportation is shit, bro.
Yeah.
Before we get out of here, bro, I just want to say if you want, just drop any promo for your channel for you and Spree.
Nah, bro, don't worry about it. It's all good.
Now, anyway, I'm gonna do it. Follow my guy Zach Spree and Z. They're on YouTube, dropping knowledge, especially Latrell Spree, the American Dream. He has so much vintage footage. He has footage from like when I used to watch Power Rangers, but like the Knicks were playing in the background. Shout out to Spreewell. That man's a legend.
Yeah, he is, bro. That's my guy.
Oh man, Zach. Again, I appreciate you for joining on with me, brother.
Hey, I appreciate you for joining on with me, man. Hey,
salute, my guy.
Anytime.
I'll definitely catch you again on one of these late night channels or on yours.
All right, bro.
Later, bro.
See you.
All right. Oh man, thanks everybody for tuning in. This was a shortened episode just because Alex wasn't here. It was late. You know, Nick and I just do this randomly. So appreciate you everybody for tuning in. Shout out to the Discord channel. A lot of people came in and showed love in the chat from Discord. So I just wanted to throw that out. Yeah, my guys. And like always, I say peace, love, sports, wrestling, peace, sports, love, wrestling. Deuces.